Since its beginnings in the 1400s, the Vatican Library's mission has not changed: to be at the service of humanity. It provides material for scholars, students, and anyone who can prove they're studying a particular item contained inside the shelves lining the library. One room in particular represents this mission, the Sistine Hall. It used to be the headquarters of the Vatican's library.
We are in the Sistine Hall. It was built under the pontificate of Sixtus V between 1585 to 1590. In these 5 years, he completed many projects in Rome, including the Salon, dedicated to receiving the books for the library. Until that time, they had been kept in a smaller space on the other side of the courtyard, a structured room open to be a library.
The entire Vatican Library houses 1.1 million printed books, 80,000 manuscripts, and 100,000 documented archives, mainly gathered from Roman families who donated their pieces to the library.
It not only has printed books, which came decades after the library was created, but also drawings, prints, engraved papers, coins, and medals. So to know the contents of the library, one must factor in all these parts. We have 80,000 manuscripts from every century, ranging from the most ancient centuries to the most recent ones, because they were still writing manuscripts 100 to 200 years ago.
Written texts were not only originally brought to the library in Latin, but soon expanded to Greek and then Hebrew. Then the path to other alphabets also opened up, such as volumes in Japanese, Chinese, or other Oriental languages. There are even some without words, like these pictograph volumes of South America. The library had begun placing each of these books and manuscripts online through a process of digitalization.
We started to digitalize a precise and articulated project, manuscripts. Since there are nearly 80,000, we have an intense job to do, and we've already put around 15 to 18,000 online. Every year we digitize new volumes.
This process has changed the way the library functions. No longer do students and scholars need to come to Rome, find a hotel, and spend days in the library. Now research can be done in the comfort of someone's living room, with all the materials at their fingertips. One person who carefully cares for and studies the ancient texts contained within the Vatican Library is a scriptor. The role originated as precisely copying texts and transcripts before the printing technology was widely available. Now they're the library's calligraphy and philological experts. One such man who's worked at the Vatican Library for nearly 30 years is Antonio Manfredi, the Latin scriptor.
The Vatican Library had a tradition of Latin editions. However, reason to believe that only using this language blocks us a little. It's good that every one of us is able to express ourselves in our own language, or at least in the languages today which are suitable to communicate scientifically. So I wrote several books in various languages, even text in Latin to publish old editions. My work in Latin is truly scientific, linguistic, and scientific.
He also works as Vice Director of the Vatican School of Library Science, where future scriptors and other library roles are taught to master students from around the world. His lessons on the history of the library are found in his new book from which he teaches. It's called La Casa dei Libri, Quaderni della Scuola Vaticana di Biblioteconomia. The library sector and jobs are expected to grow at least 9% in the coming decade, meaning the Vatican Library and these upcoming graduates won't be going anywhere fast. In fact, they'll be able to serve scholars and humanity at large, especially as digitalization and other new technologies continue to transform the average library. The Vatican's printing press, otherwise known as the Tipografia, is one of the main offices inside the Vatican city-state with a crucial role. Originating in 1587, it served the Holy See in various regards, printing papal texts, documents from various Vatican congregations, and even tickets for pilgrims to attend events with the Pope. The printing house's coordinator says the work still continues today in a very unique style.
The Vatican printing press is the oldest media contributing to the new dicastery of communication. We still make books with glue, thread, leather, sheep paper, and it works wonderfully.
While some official Vatican books are completed in this way, the texts first must be placed in a manageable format. This is the work of graphic designers. They rearrange the files in a book layout, change the size of the text, insert publishing information, and the official logo of the Vatican Tipografia.
Quindi o viene riportato il documento.
It's changed from a Word document to a PDF and placed into the book format. Sometimes the text arrives as a PDF and can be printed directly. What is printed is then handled by bookbinding or industrial craftsmen who package the book.
Both the printing and packaging processes are divided, depending which text needs to be printed, if it's black and white or color, and where it needs to be sent.
Più ci sono I macchinari invece di stampa.
We have 2 and 4 color offset machines and another room with a 5 color offset machine. The L'Osservatore Romano press prints 6 editions daily, Monday to Saturday. Then it prints 5 weekly editions in various languages, 1 in Italian, Spanish, English, Portuguese, and French. Finally, a monthly edition in Polish.
The Osservatore Romano is printed each afternoon and is packaged by a team who gets it to the public as soon as possible. Brightly colored tickets for papal events are printed in the same room on a much smaller printer. In the space next door, magazines and glossy paper is printed for books. The colors are seen above the large printers and the pages inspected before they can be sent off to become books. At the following step, the pages are sliced and diced twice. At that point, they can become stapled to make small booklets or go through the binding process to become even larger works full of imagery and history. Besides printing capabilities, the Vatican's Tipografia contains so much more.
Al primo piano poi abbiamo gli uffici.
We have buildings dedicated to the technical and commercial side. We have photo composition, a digital printing machine, and the best part of the typography, which is the artisan bookbinding. They create pieces by hand to give to the Holy Father and to the Secretary of State. They include agreements between states and the papal yearbook.
But before arriving at their current production status, the printing press went through many changes over the years. The first Vatican printing house was divided into 2 functions, with the second one starting to print in 23 different alphabets.
Poi è stata
Then another typography was created at the work of Pope Urban VIII in 1626. This other typography was created as a polyglot typography for the Sacred Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. It was used for mission materials, printed material that missionaries needed in their work.
For 2 centuries, the original press house continued printing religious books, dictionaries, and grammar books until Leo XII and Leo XIII revived it, starting in 1825. Then in 1908, construction began for the current warehouse, which caused the 2 printing presses to unite as one. In 1937, the Salesians of Don Bosco managed the printing press for about 80 years. John Paul II brought the most recent update in 1991, expanding it even more until it became part of the Vatican's dicastery for communication. In its current role, the printing press continues to work for the Holy See at the service of the Pope and the Secretary of State. They make sure all official documents, books, and tickets are made available to the faithful all around the world, no matter how far they are from the eternal city itself. Just in front of St. Peter's Basilica lies an unassuming bookstore called Benedict XVI, tucked away among the various Vatican offices lining the street. It's the home of the Vatican's Publishing House, LEV, Libreria Editrice Vaticana, serving the Pope since its beginnings in 1587. Now more than 400 years and 5,700 publications later, the current editorial director explains the original motivations for the LEV.
The popes thought of creating a printing house, a typography here in the Vatican to print the texts that served the Holy See. It was a printing house that also had a pastoral purpose. It was to serve as a tool against the Protestant Reformation by printing new liturgical books and canons of the Church.
Under Pope Sixtus V, it grew alongside the expansion of the printing press. It provided the Vatican with a written voice in various languages and an influence that lasted through the centuries. By the 1960s, it was Pope Paul VI who was still continuing its mission to make the Vatican present in society. One example was his encyclical Humanae Vitae. The finished product on the conception of human life was not the original text drafted by the Pope. Rather, it began as a different Latin text, given the title De Nascendi Prolis. It wasn't until after it had been printed in Latin the Vatican translators noticed a problem.
Quando hanno cominciato a tradurre, I traduttori
When they started translating, the translators, many of whom later became famous, said, no, there is no need to publish these things. No, it is not a good thing. So they sent the text back to the Pope, and he accepted that the text needed to be revised. So he threw the original text away and made a new encyclical. It was the famous one, Humanae Vitae.
There was no error with the encyclical. In fact, each subsequent pope has upheld its teaching since. The controversy and disagreements had been mainly on the wording of the text. Karol Wojtyła had even gotten involved during the revisions to make sure it was printed in a way everyone could understand. Other times, confusion manifests itself from not reading a sentence carefully enough. A recent example was the book What is Man and Woman, approved by the Vatican's Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. The book explained the Bible's response to controversial questions, including homosexuality.
appena uscito
As soon as it was published, a journalist wrote saying the Bible opens up to gay couples. But it's not true. Afterward, the secretary for the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, Monsignor Giacomo Morandi, had to intervene.
When questions arise about a text, Brother Giulio insists the faithful should always seek answers. However, he assures this process should begin locally in schools or parishes, asking for a clarification that resounds within the area of the world where people are and not go directly to the Pope himself. The Lev asserts they cannot make changes to texts they publish, even if there are misunderstandings among the faithful after publication.
la nostra competenza è una competenza
Our competence is to improve the graphics, make the cover, insert text in a book series, and correct small defects like form and punctuation. Since the texts are by the Holy Fathers, they are magisterial texts. The publishing house does not have competency in the content, only in the form, not in how it was written.
Aside from papal texts, 30% of their books are written by theologians or contributing authors. Another portion are made by Lev themselves. These include various series published for the Church's liturgical seasons. During Advent, Lent, and the Marian month of May, there are books with daily reflections taken from Pope Francis's words. It's how the Vatican's publishing house is still relevant and active in society. With 2 libraries in St. Peter's Square, they make magisterial texts and religious books available to all tourists and the faithful who would like to bring a small piece of the Holy See home with them in the form of a book.